Parthenon is a former temple on the Athenian Acropolis, Greece, dedicated to the goddess Athena, whom the people of Athens considered their patroness. Construction started in 447 BC when the Delian League. It was completed in 438 BC, although decoration of the building continued until 432 BC. It is the most important surviving building of classical Greece, generally considered the zenith of the Doric order. For a time it served as the treasury of the Delian League, which later on became the Athenian Empire. In the final decade of the 6th century, the Parthenon was converted into a Christian church dedicated to the Virgin Mary. After the Ottoman conquest, the Parthenon was turned into a mosque in the early 1460s. On 26 September 1687, an Ottoman ammunition dump inside the building was ignited by Venetian bombardment during a siege of the Acropolis. The resulting explosion severely damaged the Parthenon and its sculptures. From 1800 to 1803, the 7th Earl of Elgin removed some of the surviving sculptures, now known as the Elgin marbles, reportedly with the permission of the Turks of the Ottoman Empire. The Parthenon itself replaced an older temple of Athena, which historians call the pre-Parthenon or Older Parthenon, that was demolished in the Persian invasion of 480 BC. Like most Greek temples, the Parthenon served a practical purpose as the city treasury. Its decorative sculptures are considered some of the high points of Greek art. The Parthenon is regarded as an enduring symbol of ancient Greece democracy and Western civilization, and one of the world's greatest cultural monuments. To the Athenians who built it, the Parthenon and other Periclean monuments of the Acropolis were seen fundamentally as a celebration of Hellenic victory over the Persian invaders and as a thanksgiving to the gods for that victory. Since 1975, numerous large-scale restoration projects have been undertaken to ensure the structural stability of the temple. The first instance in which Parthenon possibly refers to the entire building is found in the writings of the 4th century BC orator Demosthenes. In 5th century building accounts, the structure is simply called. The architects Ictinos and Callicrates are said to have called the building in their lost treatise on Athenian architecture. Harpocration writes that the Parthenon used to be called Hekatomtos by some not due to its size but because of its beauty and fine proportions, and in the 4th century and later, the building was referred to as the Hekatomtos or the Hekatomton as well as the Parthenon. The 1st century writer Plutarch referred to the building as the Hekatomtos Parthenon. Because the Parthenon was dedicated to the Greek goddess Athena, it has sometimes been referred to as the Temple of Minerva, the Roman name for Athena, particularly during the 19th century. Although the Parthenon is architecturally a temple and is usually called so, some scholars have argued that it is not really a temple in the conventional sense of the word. A small shrine has been excavated within the building on the site of an older sanctuary probably dedicated to Athena as a way to get closer to the goddess, but the Parthenon apparently never hosted the official cult of Athena Polias, patron of Athens, the cult image of Athena Polias, which was bathed in the sea and to which was presented the peplos. The colossal statue of Athena by Phidias was not specifically related to any cult attested by ancient authors, and is not known to have inspired any religious fervor. Preserved ancient sources do not associate it with any priestess, altar, or cult name. Archaeologist Joan Breton Connolly has recently argued for the coherency of the Parthenon's sculptural program in presenting a succession of genealogical narratives that track Athenian identity back through the ages, from the birth of Athena. She argues a pedagogical function for the Parthenon's sculptured decoration, while some classicists, including Mary Beard, Peter Green, and Gary Wills, have doubted or rejected Connolly's thesis. An increasing number of historians, archaeologists, and classical scholars support her work. They include J.J. Pollitt, Brunald Ridgway, Nigel Spivey, Caroline Alexander, and A.E. Stallings. The first endeavor to build a sanctuary for Athena Parthenos on the site of the present Parthenon was begun shortly after the Battle of Marathon upon a solid limestone foundation that extended and levelled the southern part of the Acropolis summit. This building replaced a Hecatomton temple, and would have stood beside the archaic temple dedicated to Athena Polias. The older or pre-Parthenon, as it is frequently referred to, was still under construction when the Persians sacked the city in 480 BC, razing the Acropolis. The existence of both the Proto-Parthenon and its destruction were known from Herodotus, and the drums of its columns were plainly visible built into the curtain wall north of the Erechtheion. Further physical evidence of this structure was revealed with the excavations of Panagiotis Kevadias of 1885 Ninti. The findings of this dig allowed Wilhelm Dürpfeld, then director of the German Archaeological Institute, to assert that there existed a distinct substructure to the original Parthenon, called Parthenon I by Dürpfeld, not immediately below the present edifice as had been previously assumed. Dürpfeld's observation was that the 3 steps of the first Parthenon consisted of 2 steps of porous limestone, the same as the foundations, and a top step of Carrara limestone that was covered by the lowest step of the Periclean Parthenon. This platform was smaller and slightly to the north of the final Parthenon, indicating that it was built for a wholly different building now completely covered over. This picture was somewhat complicated by the publication of the final report on the 1885 Ninti excavations, indicating that the substructure was contemporary with the Ciminian walls and implying a later date for the first temple. If the original Parthenon was indeed destroyed in 480, it invites the question of why the site was left as a ruin for 33 years. One argument involves the oath sworn by the Greek allies before the Battle of Plato in 479 BC, declaring that the sanctuaries destroyed by the Persians would not be rebuilt, an oath from which the Athenians were only absolved with the Peace of Callias in 450. The mundane fact of the cost of reconstructing Athens after the Persian sack is at least as likely a cause. However, the excavations of Berthaj Hill led him to propose the existence of a second Parthenon, begun in the period of Cimene after 468 BC. Hill claimed that the Carrara limestone step Dürpfeld thought was the highest of Parthenon. I was, in fact, the lowest of the 3 steps of Parthenon, whose stilobate dimensions Hill calculated at 23.51 by 66.888 meters.